Okay, sir.
I've been working hard, I've made a mess of me. The person that I've been lately ain't who I wanna be. But you stay here right beside me, watch as the storm goes through, and I need you. 'Cause God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. For when I think I've lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you. Gave me you. There's more here than what we're seeing. Defying conspiracy. That you, an angel lovely, could somehow fall for me. You'll always be love's great martyr. I'll be the flattered fool. I need you. Yeah. God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. For when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you. On my own, I'm only half of what I could be. I can't do without you. We are still together, and while others turn around, pray we never all knew. 'Cause God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. Oh, God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. So when I think I've lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you. Gave me you. Gave me you. Jesus, take the wheel, take it from my hands, 'cause I can't do this. Here comes the blood, here comes the last time, here comes the
Okay, it's text time. Go ahead, my chicks.
Okay. Good night, everyone. This is Tex Manwine on Gem FM. I'm doing open and pray tonight on intimacy in marriage. So, Father, in the name of Jesus, dear God, I bring your union before you again, dear Father. Asking you, God, to help us, Lord God, as married people, dear Father, to follow your decree and your command in the name of Jesus. Father, there are so many rocks, Lord God, between these marriages in the name of Jesus. But I plead the blood. You tell me I wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, dear Father. So help us, give us the wisdom, oh God, to understand that this fight is not a physical fight, but God is to bring the union, the problem of the union to you, dear God. And so, Lord, we lift it tonight before you. And Father, oh God, people who are just married, I pray, God, that they open their bags, dear Father. Come prepared to sit at the table of anointing, Lord, because you have blessed us. He says, the man that findeth a woman, findeth a good thing, dear Father. And you asked him, God, to submit to you, Lord God, as you do the work of the church, let him, oh God, do the work of the home. So, Father, we pull all this together, dear God, and we say thank you, Lord, for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and that spirit will govern the marriage. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord. Well, let me turn this video off for now. Yes, so here we are tonight, and we are going to talk a little about marriage tonight. And we come last week and week before, we've been dealing with domestic violence in marriages. And we have seen a lot of couples recently, more and more couples are getting involved and violently involved. So much so that it seems to be attributing that to mental illness. It's another area of conversation we have to have. But tonight I want to welcome Ms. Tracia Grant Lewis, Ms. Grenada, back on this forum and the platform here tonight again. And before we start, I want to say a pleasant good night to all our listeners around the world who are listening, to those in New York and Toronto, Grenada, and England. We're going to thank you guys for being here again. So Tracia, just introduce yourself, and we'll keep on rolling. Go ahead, Tracia.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah.
Be back on the. I really do look forward to this always. It's just great being here. To Gem FM viewers, hi, good night. My name is Tracia Grant Lewis. I'm from the beautiful Spice Island, Grenada. I am actually, the reason I'm wearing this sash is I'm representing my Spice Island in an upcoming international beauty pageant in St. Martin to be held on the 13th of May. You can log on to my page and like my video. You know, I can actually get a 10 points extra going into the show if I have the most likes and share on the Grenada promotional video. It's really an honor to be here tonight, especially, you know, the topic in general, intimacy in marriage, and even touching lightly on the other subjects, because I think there is so much awareness that we need to bring to the table before we can start fixing anything to begin with. So I'm just really looking forward to continuing the conversation we started a week ago. And as always, it's an honor. So thank you so much.
Manorin, it's your turn to introduce yourself again, and as we await Dr. Pierre.
Well, my name is Tex Manorin, and that's it, just Tex Manorin. I'm a minister of the gospel, a woman of integrity, a woman of many hats. I start from the ground up. And what do? I'm the author of the Good Morning, My Unique Prayer that is spreading like wildfire throughout the world. There is not a country now that it's not in, dear Father, and I thank God for that. And because of the Good Morning, My Unique Prayer, I've called to order on Gem FM, and this is my home abode where God have placed me. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother of my own plus many. I have many children. God bless me with one, but so far I'm a mother of so many different cultured people and a grandmother of so many cultured people, and I give God thanks for that. I also, we have groups in Africa that I do on privately Zoom for now, because I don't just want to put them out in the public. We're doing a lot of work in Africa. Gem FM is working very hard there. We're doing work in Nairobi, Swaziland, Lagos, Sabah, Kenya, all just name it, we are there. We have over 17 different groups on the continent of Africa. So we have groups here too. We have different groups here that we deal with young people here. We work with mental illness here. Yes, we are. Yeah, I'm part of the now. I'm part of the Black African Black Canadian Task Force. I don't know why they just draw me into things. No, I'm part of the Community Watch. I sing a lot, especially in the area that I live in, and the reason for that is because I just love people. I'm when the seniors and them is outside, I tend just to go in the park in the summertime and just sit down and just sing. So they come around and they sit down and they want to listen and they, could you sing and for us some more? So I do that and just encourage them. My work is no charge because the Lord who has brought me here has not taken a dime for me. So my work in this part of the vineyard is no money. The amount of anointing and blessing that it come with, it's even better than even getting 200,000 in your hands on a daily basis. I just love in the work that God has called me to, and so very lately I've been taking up and accepting a lot of the calling that that God has upon me. He says, your gift will make a way for you. So in my years of talking a lot and in church, you hear they say, I accepted the Lord very, very young at the age of 6 years old and remain until 60. I'm still in the Lord. And you hear people used to say, you talk too much. My God, you're talking. I love to talk about the Lord. So I did not know that that was my gift. I thought I just love to brag about how much I love the Lord. And so the gift that God has blessed me by talking, I'm a motivational speaker. My God, I don't know, hats of many hats and many different colors. So we give God praise and thanks. I reach out to any and everybody. They does not have to look like you, smell like you, walk like you, as long as they are breathing, they are part of me because God created them. So I don't discriminate gender, color, no creed, whatever you are, as long as God creates you and he loves you, I love you. Wrong, right, or indifference, I love you.
Amen.
So we have to show that love so that they too could go back to their maker. We talk about the mango and we praise the mango tree, but we never praise the one who created the mango tree. So here tonight, and we're going to praise the one that created this union of marriage, which is the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's my part.
Yes, text all the way. Well, tonight I am happy to be here again, as I said. But one thing I want to show, when the show first began, we began with this this book, Developing Intimacy in Marriage. That was a book written by Angelo Del Zotto with Diane Robin Lee. And it's about intimacy in marriage, case studies. And with that, we started this show. Sister Michelle, now Pastor Michelle, she was given the mantle to carry on the work of teaching and helping marriages, right? Couples, pre-married, married, and divorced couples, how to deal and how to live in marriage and to avoid some of the pitfalls that normally comes along with marriage. So tonight, I want to first talk about Canada, for example. One of the things that happened here is that tonight, as we're sitting here, our women are preparing to go to our shelter tonight. And over 3,000 women before midnight will end up in a shelter tonight because of domestic violence. Accompanying them will be over 2,900 children. We're going in a shelter tonight in Canada. Another 400 will be returned back with the children tonight as well. The government of Canada spent over $6 billion a year to facilitate battered women. So we have a crisis, and it's deep. Every 6 days, a woman is killed in Canada. Every 6 days. And within 24 hours of a separation, that's when it happens. And believe it or not, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. As much as we want to pray those stuff out, it's happening in our communities. It's happening everywhere around us. And it's not just one particular community. It's happening across the board, right? But a lot of statistics show that the Native people have a high level of women victimization, domestic violence across the board. It's also prevalent in other communities as well. So tonight, we're going to talk about that, domestic violence. What is the main cause and what the cause is in a lot of cases? Some of the cases, one, like chicks always talk about, they're not unpacking the bags when they come into the marriage. They have issues before they come in. They have childhood traumas that they never dealt with. They have people lose their jobs, you know, they lose a loved one, and they get into a relationship from a relationship that was not functioning well. So they move into the same, all the baggages, not unpacking it, not talking about it. And from Saturday, we learn a lot from Mexi and Tracy. And that was so empowering for us here and for the community, people listening that saw somebody and heard from a couple that really talk about unpacking the bag and dealing with this situation to really have a healthy relationship. So tonight, I'll open the floor to any one of you want to start first. Go ahead until Dr. Pierre shows up and give us some statistics and so on. All right. So Tracy, you want to take the first knock at it?
Yeah.
All right, Tracy. Yeah.
I graciously accept. Thank you.
Go ahead. Yes. By the way, I will get you a copy of this book. All right? Get you a copy of
yes,
this.
Yes, I was about to ask. And you know, just into you and to Tess a minute ago, it just started my head ticking. And something I realized, and I'm speaking specifically within the marriage, but also it happens outside of the marriage. You know, I'd like to make something very clear. I cannot really speak from a victimized person, you know, being in a marriage. My husband I never had that problem. However, I have seen it. I look left, I look right, I look up, I look down. It surrounds me. And I had to say, even with all of that going on, I still fought to have a healthy marriage. And I still believed that I could have a healthy marriage. The more I saw that this toxic nature within relationship is, the more I fought. And I believe that you know, Mexi, my husband and I could show people, look, we can win this. But a lot of the times, apart from coming into relationship with toxic baggage, what I realized with persons too, there are a number of issues we face. And because we're not aware of what we're going through, we look for avenues like marriage or like a job that we don't like, or company we don't really want, but we look for avenues to sort of feed a hunger, not understanding what that hunger is. And most of the time, marriage is kind of like on the number one on the list. So maybe the death of, let's say you grew up very close with your parents and they died, or parents, and you want to fill that void because there's no therapy, there's no psychology, there's no foundation there for you to really, you know, go into. And this happens a lot in the Caribbean. And I think that's why when you look at the statistics in the Caribbean, when it comes to marriage, you'll see pretty much people who get married start experiencing turbulence within the first 6, 7, 8 months. And that is a lot of the times, apart from going into with, you know, that toxic suitcase, those toxic suitcase, is they're actually trying to heal. But instead of getting to the root of the problem, first, they're functioning in a space where they don't even realize they have a problem, and that they're trying to curb this problem by finding comfort. And most of the time, it goes into sexual comfort with another human being. Then, you know, it's emotions all over the place. In that moment, it's sort of like, as my husband put it, what was the word he said? It's not real love, it's infatuation. Infatuation. Create this whole world in their head, and you know, it's infatuation, but they're going to stick to that story because it makes them feel good. It's almost like a drug. And then when they get into this marriage, because marriage is something that's very permanent in a sense, the minute time you get into marriage, you already know, right? So you don't want to really be in a permanent situation, but because it's a quick fix to the problem that you're having that you don't know you're having, you're going to get married, and almost immediately you start seeing things and experiencing things, and you're thinking, oh, marriage, this, and we weren't compatible, when actually you probably are very compatible. There's probably not much of a problem, but because you have not dealt with that problem, as I would have mentioned, whether it's a loss or you're in a job that you don't want to be, you're now taking it out on this person that you just got married to. So a lot of the times, a lot of the awareness, that's kind of what I realized looking at marriage, is a lot of marriage, the awareness of oneself is not there. And this can cover, I mean, we can talk all night about, what it means to be aware of yourself. And for that reason in particular, marriage, when it comes specifically to marriage, it's very dangerous, because then what the message it sends, the subliminal message it sends, is marriage is bad. And, we're growing, and people are so, they attach these tags to marriage very easily. I would think it's almost like it's a subject that's picked on, or a lifestyle choice, that's picked on. It's like they can't wait. You can't wait for them to mess up. There's like a group of persons, for whatever reason, it's like, oh, well, I told you so, you should be your own man or your own woman, or whatever the case. And so you have all this negative going around something because you are not aware of what is going on internally with you. You're just stacking bricks upon bricks. And then when it gets high, you're going to convince yourself it's a house. No, it's a stack of bricks.
Wow. Tex. That's a big one. All people have a fairy tale idea of marriage, right? And when people never, like we say here, all the time the churches don't spend enough time counseling people and about real life situation in marriage. I remember when I was getting married the first time, I had 3 months of every Friday to Sunday, 3 months of serious counseling. It started off with 150 couples. With 30, but only 2 couples got married. Myself was officer. Because when they go through the nitty-gritties of what marriage really entails, they dissect the whole thing, cut it open, and show people what it is about. A lot of people was not ready for it. They were just infatuated with each other, not really in love, and understand the commitment that comes with marriage, the selflessness that have to evolve out of you. Giving yourself away to that person both ways. How does that stack up against what you're just feeling for? Just a feeling. And love is just a feeling thing. It's more than deeper than just a feeling. And a lot of people are not prepared for the work and the commitment, the selflessness that comes with marriage. Some of them, like you said, some people just like the fancy footwork, just love the niceness, the so-called drama, the nice gong, the flower girls, and the wedding day. About the wedding day. But beyond the wedding day, you have to live beyond the wedding day. You have to maintain the marriage, and maintenance of marriage is not an easy thing, so it's commitment over commitment, and advising and counseling one another, shifting and helping each other move things around mentally, physically, and socially, spiritually. There's a lot of grooming and growing that have to come with both people coming from 2 different worlds coming together. And I often say this one thing, that you live in your mother's house for 30 years, 30 to 35 years, then with somebody who left, they are living together with somebody for the next 30-something years, and the 2 culture clashing. The culture clash where I was doing certain things in my mother's house a certain way, you doing something in your mother's house a certain way, and now we come together, live together, start our own family, and we end up trying to struggle to get together, to figure out how we're going to live together. And it's a balancing act to bring your culture from your home and you bring yours, so people bring 2 different cultures in, and have to figure out how to work with it. And that does be the biggest challenge that a lot of marriages faces. So Tex, go ahead. You're muted, my dear friend.
I just sit here, I hear you talk, and I hear Tracy talk, and then I hear the Lord change the whole script.
Mm.
Wow. So unfortunately, a lot of us that get into marriage, our development of mind of what we getting into was not prominent.
Mm.
What we got into was excitement.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he loved me. I love him. Infatuation.
Mm-hmm.
And we never really, some people now getting all the counseling, but truly, what are we getting into? We're getting into excitement.
The moment in time.
We're not thinking about, oh my God, he is going to be here all night. Oh God, he is going to be here all month, like the whole month, like the whole 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And nobody's going to tell him go, and nobody's going to tell him go. So we get into excitement, and then our little minds are not developed.
Mm-hmm.
Get into things that children play, and when we get in there now, 2 days after, we say, wait a minute. So he's here to stay. She is here to stay. This is going to be a long haul. Now, what's going on? Hence the reason why when you find people that divorce and they're going to remarry, they have already grown in this person here vineyard, understanding this person. So they're taking this wealth of knowledge here and adding it with where they're going, and they add that wealth, and that's a second marriage. Their third marriage, my God, it's going to be perfect. Why? Because they go with experience. So when you're going in it as a young brain, though you're big, though you're tall as an adult, the brain is not comprehending that this come to stay. What the brains are seeing, man, serotonin, this is great. I'm coming in. We're going to love. The world is going to see us. We're going to walk and hold hands. We're going to kissy. But nobody said to us, he and she has come to stay. You guys know you're going to be living for a very long time together. Nobody tell us your attitude is going to change. You're going to grow, and you're going to get understanding. And you're going to see, well, wait a minute. Yes, I know he's a man. Let me figure out this thing. So he like this food now and he don't like this one. And he wants to talk to me how he wants. Is she yelling? She's yelling. My God, she's talking as my mother. So all these triggers now is coming out in these two people. It's going like, she sound like my mother. She's disciplining me? Are you kidding me? I am 20. Why is she disciplining me? So nobody really sit down and talk about the fear that they have now because they're hearing these two people talking different language, but understanding the same type of talk and saying, okay, so what are we going to do here? So nobody teach you to stay together in this rut now. Your first 5 years, and you're saying, God, it's 5 years out, we together. Nobody is going anyway. And on top of that, the man ain't get to love you the way that he should, yet you get pregnant. So now he had to back off now because it's now she and the baby. My God, they're so selfish. And now I'm just here. Nobody's saying anything to me. I'm just lonely here. Well, whoopie-doo, there is playground somewhere else. Let me go. Because we are not developed in our minds. And I wish when we were getting married, back in the olden days, I wish when we were getting married, we had counselors that understand and could have said, you know what, let me teach these young people something because they don't know. This is the first time I'm speaking like this because I thought, you know, well, you just got to understand and just pray that things work for you, and I will counsel people. But tonight, when this revelation just come, it's like, oh my God, it's the brain. The brain is not quite developed for what you're going into. So we go into marriage with infatuation. He's going to love me. Everybody's going to be jealous because I'm getting married. That's what it is. Nobody said, you married Saturday? You're going to wake up Tuesday and he's going to be right there. I asked the question. When I was going in the hotel, I said, so where are you going? He said, we married. I said, how long you intend to stay? I had to ask those questions because I didn't know where he was going. I know where I am going because I'm married. I didn't know that he's supposed to come along. So I just want to find out, well, is he coming? How long are you going to stay? That was my question. But now it's like, oh my God. So what kind of question one should ask? What is the question? The question is, how old are you? You could be 25 and not yet developed mentally for this challenge. And if you are not mentally prepared for a challenge, you will break. Because when a hurting person come into a marriage, if you open too early, it can hurt you. And it's how you're opening up. And if he is not mentally ready for that box to be open, you can traumatize him because he come with trauma. Man hurt twice more than a woman. Why? Because he learned at a tender age, 3 years old, who's the man of the house? See, he put up his muscles. I'm strong, so I'm the man of the house. And he learned he is the man of the house. A female child learned, one day you're going to grow up and you're going to be the best mother in the whole wide world, and you're going to be the best wife, and you're going to be best. So we grow up prepared for the marriage, the men not. Yeah. So when a hurting man come in and you have your own baggage and you want to say, buddy, so how are we going to deal with that? He's not prepared for that. He prepared, I am strong and I'm going to take care of the house. What are you going to take care of the house with? Your muscles? So men really hurt twice because they start being abused at an early age. They go outside and play and they come in, they have emotion just as a girl and they're crying and you hear the mother say, you're a man. Or the father say, you're a man, why are you crying? Fess up, you're a man. So all his life, he prepared for war, but he's not prepared for a relationship. He's not prepared to talk. Nobody prepared him to talk. Nobody prepared him to tell him it's okay to cry. It's okay to show your emotion. It's okay. And then he come in and he hear a voice like his mother, and he's not hearing what the woman is saying. He's only hearing his mother talk. And he said, honey, could you, on the table, there's a pink cup. Could you bring it for me? And he goes outside there by the table and he's looking. A pink cup. And if you're not developed, you would yell at him. Well, the pink cup is there. It's right before you. Some men, most men are traumatized. Most men are colorblind. Most men don't figure out things as women. And we have to understand they don't work. They're not wired like us. And if you don't know that as a young couple coming up, you're in for the long haul.
All right. I have a video I want to play here. It deals with domestic violence, and sometimes we miss, hit and miss in marriages. And domestic violence is not just limited to just physical, psychological, financial, medical violence against a partner. And it happens a lot even in the gay communities. It happens a lot. Gender-based violence, and it doesn't exclude gay and lesbian. They all have the trauma that they're going through, because a lot of time those things happen and sexual abuse from a young age creeps into a person's marital life. And because it was not dealt with properly, or never been dealt with, it extends into, I come into the marriage and people never get rid of it. So some sexual habits that partners have may not be conducive to the person that they're with now, don't go along with certain things. And that again is another form of abuse, because one person wants to satisfy their ego, their way of life, sexual life, and the other person does not really gravitate to it. So I just want to play a short video here before Dr. Pierre. Good night, Dr. Pierre.
Good night, good night, everyone. Thank you for having me here, and yes, I appreciate it. Tex, Man Warren, and
Tricia, yes,
and John. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Pierre. You're again a family to Gem FM, and yes, no stranger to Gem FM. And Tricia Grant is Miss Greener. She represents Miss Greener in Miss International Mothers Pageant, Elegant Mothers Pageant. in May. We was talking about domestic violence and sex trafficking, and I spoke about it, and she had no clue that it happened in Grenada to magnitude. So I brought you in. The reason why you're here tonight is to give us a reminder, to keep us sharp, also to enlighten Ms. Grenada, Tracy Grant Lewis, on domestic violence, but sex trafficking and human trafficking. So before I do that, I'll be talking about domestic violence. And I know how much of your study delved into that as well, when it comes to sex trafficking as well. And we talk about sex trafficking, we think that it happening outside the country, take somebody from outside the country to go somewhere else. We happening right in your neighborhood. And that part of domestic violence as well. When a mother is selling her child, her husband is selling his wife, is part of the whole makeup of that. But before we go into you giving us a little insight of what's really going on in that aspect, I want to play this particular video, just a snippet of it. All right, here it comes.
Thank you.
I'm here today to talk about a disturbing question, which has an equally disturbing answer. My topic is the secrets of domestic violence. And the question I'm going to tackle is the one question everyone always asks. Why does she stay? Why would anyone stay with a man who beats her? I'm not a psychiatrist, a social worker, or an expert in domestic violence. I'm just one woman with a story to tell. I was 22. I had just graduated from Harvard College. I'd moved to New York City for my first job as a writer and editor at 17 Magazine. I had my first apartment, my first little green American Express card, and I had a very big secret. My secret was that I had this gun loaded with hollow point bullets pointed at my head by the man who I thought was my soulmate many, many times. The man who I loved more than anybody on earth held a gun to my head and threatened to kill me more times than I can even remember. I'm here to tell you the story of crazy love, a psychological trap disguised as love, one that millions of women and even a few men fall into every year. It may even be your story. I don't look like a typical domestic violence survivor. I have a BA in English from Harvard College, an MBA in marketing from Wharton Business School. I spent most of my career working for Fortune 500 companies, including Johnson & Johnson, Leo Burnett, and the Washington Post. I've been married for almost 20 years to my second husband, and we have 3 kids together. My dog is a black lab, and I drive a Honda Odyssey minivan. So my first message for you is that domestic violence happens to everyone. All races, all religions, all income and education levels. It's everywhere. And my second message is that everyone thinks domestic violence happens to women, that it's a women's issue. Not exactly. Over 85% of abusers are men. And domestic abuse happens only in intimate, interdependent, long-term relationships. In other words, in families. The last place we would want or expect to find violence, which is one reason domestic abuse is so confusing. I would have told you myself that I was the last person on earth who would stay with a man who beats me. In fact, I was a very typical victim because of my age. I was 22. And in the United States, women ages 16 to 24 are 3 times as likely to be domestic violence victims as women of other ages. And over 500 women and girls this age are killed every year by abusive partners, boyfriends and husbands in the United States. I was also a very typical victim because I knew nothing about domestic violence, its warning signs or its patterns. I met Connor on a cold, rainy January night. He sat next to me on the New York City subway, and he started chatting me up. He told me 2 things. One was that he too had just graduated from an Ivy League school, and that he worked at a very impressive Wall Street bank. But what made the biggest impression on me that first meeting was that he was smart and funny, and he looked like a farm boy. He had these big cheeks, these big apple cheeks, and this wheat blonde hair, and he seemed so sweet. One of the smartest things Connor did from the very beginning was to create the illusion that I was the dominant partner in the relationship. He did this, especially at the beginning, by idolizing me. We started dating, and he loved everything about me. That I was smart, that I'd gone to Harvard, that I was passionate about helping teenage girls and my job. He wanted to know everything about my family and my childhood, my hopes and dreams. Connor believed in me as a writer and a woman in a way that no one else ever had. And he also created a magical atmosphere of trust between us by confessing his secret, which was that as a very young boy, starting at age 4, he had been savagely and repeatedly physically abused by his stepfather. And the abuse had gotten so bad that he had had to drop out of school in 8th grade, even though he was very smart. And he'd spent almost 20 years rebuilding his life, which is why that Ivy League degree and the Wall Street job and his bright, shiny future meant so much to him. If you had told me that this smart, funny, sensitive man who adored me would one day dictate whether or not I wore makeup, how short my skirts were, where I lived, what jobs I took, who my friends were, and where I spent Christmas, I would have laughed at you. Because there was not a hint of violence or control or anger in Connor at the beginning. I didn't know that the first stage in any domestic violence relationship is to seduce and charm the victim. I also didn't know that the second step is to isolate the victim. Now, Connor did not come home one day and announce, hey, all this Romeo and Juliet stuff has been great, but I need to move into the next phase where I isolate you and I abuse you. So I need to get you out of this apartment where the neighbors can hear you scream and out of the city where you have friends and family and coworkers who can see the bruises. Instead, Connor came home one Friday evening, and he told me that he had quit his job that day, his dream job. And he said that he had quit his job because of me, because I had made him feel so safe and loved that he didn't need to prove himself on Wall Street anymore. And he just wanted to get out of the city and away from his abusive, dysfunctional family and move to a tiny town in New England where he could start his life over with me by his side. Now, the last thing I wanted to do was leave New York and my dream job. But I thought you made sacrifices for your soulmate. So I agreed, and I quit my job, and Connor and I left Manhattan together. I had no idea I was falling into crazy love, that I was walking headfirst into a carefully laid physical, financial, and psychological trap. The next step in the domestic violence pattern is to introduce the threat of violence and see how she reacts. And here's where those guns come in. As soon as we moved to New England, that place where Connor was supposed to feel so safe, he bought 3 guns. He kept one in the glove compartment of our car. He kept one under the pillows on our bed. And the third one he kept in his pocket at all times. And he said that he needed those guns because of the trauma he'd experienced as a young boy. He needed them to feel protected. But those guns were really a message from me. And even though he hadn't raised a hand to me, my life was already in grave danger every minute of every day. Connor first physically attacked me 5 days before our wedding. It was 7 a.m. I still had on my nightgown. I was working on my computer trying to finish a freelance writing assignment, and I got frustrated. And Connor used my anger as an excuse to put both of his hands around my neck and to squeeze so tightly that I could not breathe or scream. And he used the chokehold to hit my head repeatedly against the wall. 5 days later, the 10 bruises on my neck had just faded. and I put on my mother's wedding dress, and I married him. Despite what had happened, I was sure we were going to live happily ever after, because I loved him, and he loved me so much. And he was very, very sorry. He had just been really stressed out by the wedding and by becoming a family with me. It was an isolated incident, and he was never going to hurt me again. It happened twice more on the honeymoon. The first time, I was driving to find a secret beach, and I got lost. And he punched me in the side of my head so hard that the other side of my head repeatedly hit the driver's side window. And then a few days later, driving home from our honeymoon, he got frustrated by traffic, and he threw a cold Big Mac in my face. Connor proceeded to beat me once or twice a week for the next 2.5 years of our marriage. I was mistaken in thinking that I was unique and alone in this situation. 1 in 3 American women experiences domestic violence or stalking at some point in her life. And the CDC reports that 15 million children are abused every year. 15 million. So actually, I was in very good company. Back to my question. Why did I stay? The answer is easy. I didn't know he was abusing me. Even though he held those loaded guns to my head, pushed me downstairs, threatened to kill our dog, pulled the key out of the car ignition as I drove down the highway, poured coffee grounds on my head as I dressed for a job interview. I never once thought of myself as a battered wife. Instead, I was a very strong woman in love with a deeply troubled man, and I was the only person on earth who could help Connor face his demons. The other question everybody asks is, why doesn't she just leave? Why didn't I walk out? I could have left any time. To me, this is the saddest and most painful question that people ask, because we victims know something you usually don't. It's incredibly dangerous to leave an abuser, because the final step in the domestic violence pattern is kill her. Over 70% of domestic violence murders happen after the victim has ended the relationship, after she's gotten out, because then the abuser has nothing left to lose. Other outcomes include long-term stalking, even after the abuser remarries, denial of financial resources, and manipulation of the family court system to terrify the victim and her, who are regularly forced by family court judges to spend unsupervised time with the man who beat their mother. And still we ask, why doesn't she just leave? I was able to leave because of one final sadistic beating that broke through my denial. I realized that the man who I loved so much was going to kill me if I let him. So I broke the silence. I told everyone. The police, my neighbors, my friends and family, total strangers. And I'm here today because you all helped me. We tend to stereotype victims as grisly headlines, self-destructive women, damaged goods. The question, why does she stay, is code for some people for it's her fault for staying. As if victims intentionally choose to fall in love with men intent upon destroying us. But since publishing Crazy Love, I have heard hundreds of stories from men and women who also got out, who learned an invaluable life lesson from what happened, and who rebuilt lives, joyous, happy lives, as employees, wives, and mothers, lives completely free of violence. Like me. And it turns out that I'm actually a very typical domestic violence victim and a typical domestic violence survivor. I remarried a kind and gentle man. We have those 3 kids. I have that black lab and I have that minivan. What I will never have again, ever, is a loaded gun held to my head by someone who says that he loves me. Now, right now, maybe you're thinking, wow, this is fascinating. Or wow, how stupid was she? But this whole time, I've actually been talking about you. I promise you, there are several people listening to me right now who are currently being abused, or who were abused as children, or who are abusers themselves. Abuse could be affecting your daughter, your sister, your best friend right now. I was able to end my own crazy love story by breaking the silence. I'm still breaking the silence today. It's my way of helping other victims. And it's my final request of you. Talk about what you heard here. Abuse thrives only in silence. You have the power to end domestic violence simply by shining a spotlight on it. We victims need everyone. I need every one of you to understand the secrets of domestic violence. Show abuse the light of day by talking about it with your children, your coworkers, your friends and family. Recast survivors as wonderful, lovable people with full futures. Recognize the early signs of violence and conscientiously intervene, de-escalate it, show victims a safe way out. Together, we can make our beds, our dinner tables, and our families the safe and peaceful oases they should be. Thank you.
Wow. What is
every day.
happen every day? Isn't that something? Isn't that something? The thing women go through. They feel like they've been loved, and they're trapped that they get sucked into. And it's so subtle that you believe the person loves you so much, and everything they're doing is in your best interest, but it's a form of control. And she was totally controlled, but it kind of empowered her, make her feel that she's the most powerful person. But he will take her down beat by beat with her vulnerability. Wow. Any questions? Tracy, what's your thoughts? Tracy, after watching this video, I think Tracy is muted. Tracy, I think she's muted. All right. So, Dr. Pierre, again, I want to welcome you back here tonight as part of the show tonight. Your mic is muted, Dr. Pierre.
Okay, good.
Yes. What I mean, just before you go into your presentation here and talk to Tracy, because she want to know more about this sex trafficking, human trafficking, and so on. Domestic violence, we're talking about it tonight. But what are your thoughts on when you just look at this presentation? What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Good afternoon, everyone, listening audience, to Gem FM family. Thank you for having me here. As I said, I'm Justin Pierre. I'm a Grenadian by birth. However, we all live here in Toronto. We're part of the diaspora. And just a little background of what I do. Originally from Fontenoy, we live in Canada. Our firm is a company by the name of Dunn Pierre Barnett and Company Canada Limited. So we are a research firm, but more specifically, we are a Black research firm. So we concentrate on a lot of areas that affect Black people. And we also specialize in skills trades. And we also conduct many of the labor market needs assessments worldwide. We are particularly, we specialize in collecting data data on the Black population. So from as one of the larger databases on Black people. So we believe that we're not there, but we're getting there in identifying maybe there are 200 million Black people in this part of the hemisphere, from Argentina to Alaska. And we are building our database day by day, and we're getting help from international support on our database. The reason why I'm here, I guess, is because of my involvement in research into the human trafficking field. And in 2000, human trafficking and migration. So between 2016 and 2022, our firm conducted about 14 of the largest migration and labor market studies in the Caribbean, and we were able to conduct some in the Caribbean region. So we first started off with the Turks and Caicos migration survey, and we also looked at some of the Haitian roots. Then we also looked at in 2019, we conducted the CARICOM human trafficking study. So where we looked at human trafficking in the Caribbean region. And in that regard, we sort of more or less discovered the whole issue with human trafficking, the whole challenge with human trafficking in the Caribbean region. It was sort of worse than people originally thought. We also found out that in the Caribbean had one of the largest brothels in the world, was really in the Caribbean here. There we also identified there were about 83 brothels with that contained over 5 people in a stable. Meaning a stable is how many women you have in a brothel. So there were so many. We had a cut off of only 5. So we just focus on the 83 of brothels that have 5 and more persons within their stable. So we know that it is a problem. There is a whole issue of what is called sex tourism in the Caribbean. So persons from all over the world will come to the Caribbean to have a sex tourism. So today, as we speak, as of yesterday, someone could get a brochure. They can select a specific country that you go to. You can select on the menu what type of woman you want, what age, all the characteristics of those women. And you have a package, you pay for that package. You generally come in on either a Wednesday or Thursday in the region. You spend about 3 to 4 nights, and you get any pleasure that you want. Any woman, any child, pedophilia, hemophilias, ehemophilias, any type of menu you want, you can get it in the Caribbean region. So it's that bad, and it occurs almost in every country in the region. And in the smaller countries, the whole issue of human trafficking is not as established as let's say the larger countries. But in small countries, for example, when we did the human trafficking study, like kind of zeroing it into Grenada, we had our case study, our focus group at the Public Workers Union Center. And we heard stories about children and the experience, how you have what is called, for example, mothers would encourage their young daughters, for example, to more or less prostitute or traffic their young daughters to let's say they are bus drivers, that the bus drivers, for example, can go with their daughter, and in turn all the rest of the children will get a free ride on the bus, things like that. You had many type of stories. Technically, is a form of human trafficking, and obviously, so in Grenada, because we do not have laws or proper laws, or human trafficking laws are not enacted properly. There's a lot to be done, especially in our country, in Grenada. So with this, I just want to just give you a a small history about about human trafficking in the Caribbean. Why the Caribbean, in our opinion, is the epicenter of human trafficking in this part, or well, maybe in the world, not yeah, I'll say in the world, but let's say in this part of the region. So first of all, the Caribbean region, we have about 640 million people in this part of our region. So we are 8% of the world's population, but we commit 33% of all crimes in the world are committed in this part of our region. Okay, it is in the Caribbean region. You have about 7,000 islands, 1 million square miles. There's no central government that police their area. You have over 25 different languages, many different sovereign places. For example, it's very hard to manage. There are over 300 islands just in Venezuela, 315 islands in Guyana. We also have a lack of resources to combat human trafficking properly. We also have weak legislation. There's limited funding for research. As I mentioned before, sex tourism is a big deal in the region. Many persons come into the region to have sex. Okay, it happens in many countries, actually. I mean, most countries. As I said, there's a very high demand for sex in the by the citizens of the region, not only for the tourists who are coming into the region, but also by the citizens. Okay, so we have it on two ends. Why? In the Caribbean region also, sexual violence against women, and that's very important. Sexual violence against women is viewed as a form of entertainment. And that is one of the most dangerous aspect of this whole issue of violence against women, etc. Why the Caribbean also, there is a very low apprehension rate. An apprehension rate of 3.5% of persons who are in the human trafficking industry. The chances are, it is very big in this region because most people would not get caught. The police, the law enforcement, they do not have the resources to go after these people. So it's almost a perfect crime because only 3.5 for every 100 persons who commit human trafficking or acts of human trafficking, less than 3.7% of those persons are arrested or brought to a justice. So this is what we are seeing in this the whole atmosphere, the whole landscape of human trafficking in the Caribbean region. So I'll stop here and maybe ask just if you have any other questions, you will be able I'll be able to answer.
All right. I know Tracy is currently cutting in and out. One of the things, Tracy, are you Tracy? Based on what you heard, Dr. Pierce said, is there any question you'd like to ask him in terms of human trafficking and sex trafficking in the Caribbean, in particular Grenada, based on what you have just said? And they've been cutting off and on, but I hope you get a lot of what he was saying.
Okay, I didn't hear much. I'm not sure. Are you hearing me clear? Because I'm getting really bad reception on my end.
Yeah, we're hearing you. We're hearing you loud and clear.
Are you hearing me clear?
Yeah. Yes, we are. Yeah, we are hearing you. Yes.
As I was saying, well, I got different. My concerns are, and I haven't know much to protect us, but
okay, we're not hearing you again. You're cut off. No sound from you. Wow.
It's just the internet.
Yeah, internet. Yeah, it's bad. Dr. Pierre, I wanted to draw, if you can, the line, if it's a thin line or a broad line between domestic violence, sex trafficking. There's husbands who sell their wives to sexual pleasures as well. Do you consider also a form of domestic violence in marriage? And a husband you're muted.
Yes, thanks again for having me. Yes, there is there's a blur line, okay? There's a blur between love and human trafficking. In fact, 38% of victims of human trafficking they were first lovers. So in order for them, the easiest way to become a human trafficking victim is to get in a romantic relationship with a potential human trafficking victim, because it's the first step. I mean, there are different stages, as the woman said. First, you have the grooming stages.
Mhm.
So first of all, human traffickers are very, very creative. They listen very carefully. There is a stage that you go from the grooming stage. They wine you and dine you, and they give you all this your needs met. If you want a cell phone, they give you a cell phone. If you want a hat, a beautiful dress, anything you want, they will give you. So that is the grooming stage. It takes about maybe 4 to 5 days on average, grooming stages. And after that stage, then it's a form of manipulation now, in terms of manipulation, and then it moves rapidly into the victim. They're using the victim as a form of income. So we see, for example, we see that young children, 13, 14 years old, becoming victim of human trafficking. And we find that there is what is called, there is bonding. They will be so in love with their abuser that they will never testify against it. So it's so marriage, love, relationship, and sexual violence. There is a line, but it's very, very common to see either boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. Yes, and also just to know that the reason why human trafficking is such a problem is because most persons who are in this field, they have no criminal record.
Mm-hmm. Talk about that, because when somebody they involve in a criminal activity, venture, right? It's a crime. But people who does not have a criminal record are the ones who are actually conducting that business. How subtle is such a venture for people in high places to be trafficking without being criminalized? How is that possible?
Right, it was a very good question. We see that from our data. So what we look as a scientist, we look at the data, we analyze the data. So we conducted after we did the human trafficking study in the countries of the Caribbean, the 20 countries of the Caribbean, there was an organization who wanted us, because the study was so interesting, the organization wanted us to extend their study. So what we did, we collected data, arrest and investigation and arrest data from all the countries in the Caribbean. I think what 37 countries in the Caribbean. So we analyzed 198 million data sets of investigations and arrests. So everybody who was investigated in terms of a crime, or anybody who was arrested. And from our data in the Caribbean region, in the Caribbean region, the highest number of investigation occurs in what's called drug related offenses. So that's the most of it. Over 60-something million cases, because people are in the drugs. After that, you have what is called firearms offenses. So that's so drugs and firearms, they run together. But then it is collectively it is sexual offenses. So sexual offenses is one of the third highest incidents of crime in the region.
So how did people? What kind of persons are involved in the trafficking? What what sort of a
profession
that involved in so that we wouldn't get we trust this person at this profession. Who should we be looking out for that doesn't have a criminal record that we should be looking out for?
Right.
What kind of people are we looking out for?
Right. So that's a very good question, because what we from our data, what we looked at, I said we looked at one of we looked about 198 million arrest and investigation, and what we did in terms of what we do, first of all, we had to code our data in a specific way. So what we did, we ended up in North America, you normally you can code your data based on NAICS codes. But what we did is that we ended up coding our data in ISIC codes, which is the International Standard Classification of Occupation, ISCO codes. So we coded our data. So we found out from so there are 10 types of classifications of occupations. You have managers, you have professions, you have technical and associate professions, you have clerical persons, service and sales, skilled workers, craft, elementary, armed forces, etc. So what we found out from our information, we found out that from all the persons who committed, let's look at what is called sexual violence against women. So when we look at the category of sexual violence against women, we found out that it is that 10 occupations are prominent in the violence against women. And 70.9% of all sexual violence against women within the Caribbean region. As I said, our focus was based on the Caribbean region. So these 70.9, almost 3/4 of all sexual violence against women, they're conducted by 10 occupations. And by far, we have people who work in the elementary occupation. So those that are things like farmers, fishermen, and low income, low occupation, elementary workers. So they by far commit the most sexual offenses against women. Also, we have what is called people from someone of trust. So they also form a large part of persons who abuse violence against women and young children. You also have persons like in the persons who are nightclub owners. We have what is called bus conductors, bus drivers, taxi drivers, and things like and occupations like that. So we broke down all the different types of occupations, and we were able to come up with some sort of profile, because our goal is to develop what is called a profile of a predator, because our study is based on, we look at in our research, we focus on what is called the predatory aspect of human trafficking. And this is where we concentrate our study in 10 occupations. However, the most likely abuser of a woman, okay, would be someone in the elementary occupations.
Moving people from country to country in the Caribbean. Last time we was here to work Venezuela to Grenada, Trinidad, and stuff like that. And the people that was involved, the police officers and businessmen and so on. How much of that in the Caribbean, in particular in Grenada, that translates into high profession of individuals like police officers, doctors, businessmen? I mean, people who have reputation, good reputation people, with good reputation. How much, what percentage of those persons that are involved in that? Because in domestic violence, those people are husbands and husbands. Most of them are husbands too, right? They have family, and they engage in those things of sex trafficking and human trafficking. How much of this percentage of the high profile people are of that profession, like doctors, police officers, politicians, and so in the Caribbean?
Okay, then a very good question. Well, as I said, that we do not have the data as a researcher. We don't have enough data to make a qualifying statement. However, what we have done in our study, we have conducted in 2020, we conducted a study on 342 human traffickers, known human traffickers in the Caribbean region. As I said, some of them who operate in the Caribbean region, but they're not really from the Caribbean region. But because the Caribbean is more or less the epicenter of human trafficking in this part of the hemisphere, people from all parts of the world come to the Caribbean because of its quote unquote its low apprehension rate. It makes it a haven, a safe place to operate. So in terms of let's say if lawyers or doctors or regular persons, we cannot say with certainty, because as I said, we are moved by the data. So we cannot say it with certainty because there isn't enough data, there isn't enough body of evidence for us to make a specific conclusion. But what we know for sure is that sexual violence occurs. Violence against women is seen as a form of entertainment. We also see that there is a low apprehension rate. Men believe that they have certain privilege and certain powers over women. We also see that 38% of persons who commit violence against women are married. So we know that they are of a specific age, and the average buyer of sex is between 35 and 75. So we have people say that, hey, when you're young you do that, but no, the more mature you are, the more you get this inkling to satisfy your desires. We also know from speaking, especially when we did the study in Trinidad, from speaking with the Johns, we found out that one of the main reasons why persons who buy sex is for experimental purposes. Okay, they experiment, maybe, no offense to the wives, of course. Sometimes, they want to practice, they want to see things that the wife maybe based on her religious belief may not want to engage in. However, the man will go outside and experience. And some of the reasons why they say men get into these type of vices is because of how it makes them feel. I had an interview with someone from Antigua. And the guy said, in jokingly in language, he said, Dr. Pierre, I don't mind spending the $500 a week because how it makes me feel. I know I'm married, yes, but just for an hour, 2 hours, that feeling of being important. He said he finds it worth it. So I mean that's his views. Right. It's seen as kind of violence against women, and until you see that something has to be done, because there is no legislation, there is no law, there is no legislation.
Laws, yeah.
Yes, it is getting more and more prevalent. It is not being regulated per se, and we need that. There must have some sort of legislation against these things.
All right, Tricia, are you able to come in now? Your mic is muted.
Yeah, but I can't do the video. It seems like I'm having really bad connection when I'm doing the video.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Pierre, I've heard, and some of it was broken up a bit. So you may have answered the question I'm gonna ask, but please just so I can hear. The thing about it, because this is not very prevalent here in Grenada, and for me, I've just recently, as for some reason or the other, it's been the conversation topics. And what I do know here for Grenada, the awareness is not there. It's really not there. And then you kind of think, like, my first initial reaction was, this is happening here? Who will do such a thing here? And so it's almost like nobody's gonna think like, and I'm still even thinking with this conversation happening, they're still not gonna realize like, okay, it has hit home. And my question is, what, as I said, you may have answered this, but what are some of the red flags do we look for? Whether, and is this something more prevalent among young people, or does it really matter what the age is? And in terms of gender, which one gets targeted most?
Okay, good. A very good question. And what I would like to say is the sex, the demand for sex. First of all, the demand for sex in the Caribbean is very high. Okay,
all right.
But it's high mainly by the citizens. Okay, not only the foreigners that come in. There's a steady stream of foreigners that come into the Caribbean region to engage in sex tourism, but also the demand for sex by the citizens of the country is also very high. Okay, we also see that the dominant victim is a woman of violence against women. In terms of age, there is a wide age band. Persons can do it in their the younger they are, but we see that it is becoming more for more mature persons because they have more disposable income to go after these women and to engage in their sexual vices. So it's for mature persons. In terms of law enforcement or people from professions, I mean, it is done openly. Okay, so for example, when we initially went around to do the desk review, to do the consultation, what we found is that persons were like very offended to just to mention the topic of human trafficking. They were very offended. This does not happen here. What are you saying? You know, you're trying to spoil my country's name.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen. And when we got more and more into the topic, into the study, and then we start having the stakeholders consultation. We start speaking to the victims. We start speaking to the people who were once children who were once abused. Let's say, for example, in Grenada, people who were once abused, people who they were saying, yes, that was a form of human trafficking. I remember my mother told me that this bus driver would be coming to my home, or I should go by his home. And obviously, I mean, you know, what? Okay, if she's underage, you know what she's going there. Therefore, it was difficult for me, but my mother said it, and I had to do it because we had nothing for the children, etc. So these are all form of abuse in the legal aspect. I'm not a lawyer by any chance, but in the legal aspect, it's still considered a form of human trafficking. So yes, I would say it occurs a lot in the region, and that's why, you know, the laws and stuff have to be tightened, and Grenada must enact their trafficking in persons laws in Grenada, because up till 2014 it has not been active. Grenada should have what is called a counter trafficking unit. They should have something in place so that persons will be able to view their opinion, their complaints. And right now, this is not done in Grenada, and it should be done. It's done in Trinidad and Tobago. It's done in Antigua, in Venezuela, in Jamaica, in most of the other countries. But in Grenada, as of the 28th of March, 2023, this is not done. There's no counter trafficking unit in Grenada, and the one should be established.
Wow.
Just one, is there any known case of this where like cases have been confirmed here in Grenada that this has actually been going on?
Human trafficking, yes. There was a case. There was a case from persons from Malaysia. They were trafficked from St. Lucia to Grenada. Yes, and there are documented cases. Also, the whole issue of migrant smuggling is big in Grenada also, because as we say that
Migrant smuggling.
Migrant smuggling. So
What
migrant
is that?
smuggling, it all comes with the whole issue of human trafficking, because in the Caribbean region, there are 13 types of crime in the region. So there are 13 specific crime on the organized crime. There are basically 13 of them that they all married with they all coincide and interlink with each other. So you have drug smuggling, which is the biggest one, of course. Then after drug smuggling, you have arms trafficking. After arms trafficking, you have human trafficking, of course. You also have what is called pornography, but more important, you have in the Caribbean, some of the smaller islands, you have child pornography. So it's very big in the region. Child pornography, a lot of the movies and videotapes and pornographic movies, a lot of them are done in the Caribbean. You also have what is called a bartering, contraband petrol in the region on the high seas. We have a bartering system, drugs for guns, drugs for food, drugs for fish, salted fish, drugs for rice, drugs for flour. All of these things happen on the high seas. You have what is called kidnapping in the Caribbean region, is very big. You have extortion, you have money laundering, just blatant corruption, and you have what is called murder for hire in the region. And obviously you have the big one, what is called migrant smuggling. And migrant smuggling is it's becoming very, very, very lucrative, because they travel about close to 80,000 people within the region, within the world, travel through the Caribbean. So in our study, we found out persons from Myanmar, Zambia, we found persons from China, India, all coming through the Caribbean on the way to North America, at Chile and Argentina and French Guiana.
Wow. So how vulnerable our children in all of that, our women in the Caribbean or in Grenada, how vulnerable are they in terms of the trafficking when it comes to sex trafficking?
Well, well, first of all, as I will ask people, I will tell people, the first thing people ask me these questions and say, what do you do? I will ask people to ask your children tonight when you go home, or when you wake up in the morning, to just ask your children, son, daughter, I love you very much, but do you know what is human trafficking? Just ask your children, do you know what is human trafficking? And if your child or your loved one cannot give you a logical answer, parents, I think that you are in trouble. So you should ask your children at the age must know what is a human trafficking and what are some of the signs.
Yeah, that's what I think Tracy asked that earlier. What are some of the signs you look out for as a parent, even as an individual, a woman or a man? What should we be looking out for? What kind of thing, red flags? Okay then.
Well, for example, human trafficking, the only person that can be trafficked. So I can give you maybe maybe I give you a wide definition of what the United Nations said about human trafficking. Okay, but I will give you maybe from my experience in the field. As I said, we have spoken to maybe more human traffickers than most law enforcement persons, because we interviewed them. So from my definition, my working definition, I would say human trafficking is a form of human rights abuse, which is used to exploit vulnerable people through the use of force, violence, deception, coercion, or for economic gains. And I must say that this definition is not totally my definition per se, but this definition came out from interviews with the past counter trafficking chief of Trinidad and Tobago, Miss Alana Wheeler. So I said that this definition that I'm giving you there is the definition came from my experience interviewing Miss Alana Wheeler. So human trafficking, the only person who can be trafficked is somebody who is vulnerable. So so you ask the question, what do you mean by a vulnerable person? So a person can be vulnerable in many ways. So a person can be vulnerable because of the physical and mental state. They can be vulnerable due to some type of disability. A person can be vulnerable because of the economic state, such as poverty. They can be vulnerable because of the migration status. They may be a irregular migrant, or what we call in our language an illegal migrants. So they can be vulnerable. They can be vulnerable by ways of just being a child or minor, because children cannot give consent. So most children are vulnerable. So therefore most children can be trafficked. They can just be vulnerable by the ethnicity. They can be vulnerable because of the language or accent, the inability to speak the language in the country in which they are lived. So a person can be vulnerable because due to the type of isolation they experience in a different culture. So vulnerability is very wide. So what we believe that human traffickers, almost anybody can be vulnerable to human trafficking. Somebody can be vulnerable again because of the employment status or the criminal record. So it's a wide area, and that is why we believe that it's so difficult to sort of put a finger on the whole definition of human trafficking, because anyone can be subjected to human trafficking, providing that they are vulnerable.
Tracy, Tex?
At what age it stop?
Beg your pardon?
At what age it stops?
Well,
because I am 60. God have mercy. So they don't go after people that are 60 years, right?
Well, anyone can be vulnerable. As I said, for example, the country, the occupation with the occupation with the highest form of violence is in the sex, as a sex worker. 58% of all sex workers die before the age of 32. So it's very, very high. It's a violent industry to get it, and so anyone can be vulnerable. It generally starts from. I'm just looking at our data. So from our experience in the Caribbean region, from our study, we have conducted, as I said, close to 98 million data sets of investigations. So let's look at our region. So let's look at our region. So we know that rape and violence against women is in the Caribbean have the highest percentage. If you take the top 31 countries that have the most violence, the highest percentage of violence against women, 15 of the Caribbean countries, 15 countries are in the top 31. That's why we see in the Caribbean, there is violence against women. It's such a high, have such a high incidence. Obviously, that can be done to be traced back to our slavery, because remember we were controlled and colonized by the British, and from history, Britain is one of the most violent countries, because Britain commit years and centuries of violence against its colonies. So just being just descendants or colony of Britain, it shows that's why the violence in the region is so high, because it was, as I said, these were all these countries were colonized by Britain. So what we want to look at so our studies, as I said, our study looked at the demographic profile of a sexual predator or a buyer of sex who visit the Caribbean. So we say that, as you mentioned, the average person who comes in is a white male between the ages of 45 and 70. This person owns real estate in this country, a middle to high income. He tends to be a heavy spender. Most of these guys are family oriented. Close to 37% of them are married. When they visit the Caribbean, they visit the region on very short stay, between 3 to 4 nights on average. We believe that from the immigration data, they come into the Caribbean. They come into the Caribbean anytime between Wednesdays and Fridays, but most times on Thursdays. They generally leave on Sundays. So I mean, we have done extensive work on developing this profile of these traffickers. What we know for sure. So what we have done in some of our work is we have divided sex predators or sex offenders into 3 basic categories. And what I will just briefly, so for example, we have taken the term pedophilias, okay, that's persons who have sexual relations with someone under 13 years. We have looked at the term of hemophilias, which is that who have experience with young children between the ages of 11 and 14. Okay, of 15, we call them hemophilias, and we look at the term ehemophilias, who have sexual relationship with minors between the ages of 15 and 19. So we have broken down these sexual offenders into 3 categories, and from our experience, we see, for example, where you have the highest percentage right across their border are bus drivers. Okay, we have they are special, and we have taxi drivers. So we know in our region, in fact, I'm from Grenada, we know that you have certain bus drivers who love young children, who love school children. We hear that everywhere in our society.
It's nasty.
So that is also a form of sexual,
trafficking,
violence against minor. We also have fishermen. So fishermen, farmers, they run right across their spectrum. They are also engaging in all their chronophilia activities. We have fishermen, farmers. They are both involved in pedophilia activity, hemophilia activity, and hemophilias activities. So bus drive, so farmers, fishermen. We have taxi drivers. We have bus conductors. We have bus drivers, nightclub owners, boat operators, persons of trust. Police officers. Leaders.
Yeah, religious leaders, police officers. Okay. Go ahead, Tex.
When would they set a task force in Grenada? Like, what would they need to do to get serious and set one?
Okay, well, first of all, the government of Grenada should set up a counter CTU, a counter trafficking unit. So they should set that up. This is not set up in the country as yet. So the government of Grenada should set up a counter trafficking unit. The law is on the books, but it's not enacted. Countries like Grenada in 2023 should have a trafficking unit. Okay, because we all heard about the situation with the Haitians. Okay, so right. This is something that is it is very, very serious, and persons were kind of disappointed at the government for because obviously nobody knows the issue of human trafficking. It is not something that is studied. And that is why they must have a counter trafficking unit. Trinidad has one. All the other countries have one except Grenada. And we just want to know why in 2023 a counter trafficking unit is not set up in Grenada at this point in time. So we will ask the
before text, I want to just come in here, but Brother Pierre, Dr. Pierre, you said something there about trafficking, and with the Haitian, it could be that whole situation, and I heard someone in a conversation not too long ago said that they could have been trafficked. Those same people that came to Grenada, Haitian, could have been in a position they have been trafficked. How do I know if I see somebody on the street, I see a group of girls with one guy going in a minivan? How do I know they've been trafficked? What are the red flags really? I see Tracy here going down the street with some guys, and 4 of them going up in a black van. Is this a red flag to something to look out for?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes there are classical signs. A person cannot speak for themselves. So, for example, if you meet someone who doesn't have a voice, who cannot speak for themselves, most likely that person might be trafficked. For example, somebody who has to get the authority of someone before they speak. Okay. Just somebody who might be odd. Children. I remember one of the persons from one of the other law enforcement agencies in one of the countries had called me one day and said that they found this man and this child traveling together. And based on the passport, it just doesn't match. And the child always look at him. It's always looking at him. Okay, they called me always looking at him. I said, well, I don't, it's very hard to say, but what you should do is to
just separate them.
when they just don't let them land. Okay, well, when they land, tell them to just remain in their plane after when everyone leaves, and just bring the police in. And then what they did is that the police came, interviewed them, and found out that yes, the guy didn't. It was a form of it was a legal adoption. Okay, and but then the guy was arrested, and the child taken back to his rightful rightful owner.
Wow.
So it happens. So it's people who are dirty, people who are not kept, persons who it's very wide. I can give you 20 different types of indicators, but you could just Google them.
I saw one with young ladies. I can't remember which one I saw it, but there was young ladies who was promised a nice life in the United States, right? And they came from Africa, and as soon as they reach on the plane and they claim immigration, they took their cell phones from them and the passport. So young ladies in that predicament, when that happened to you, definitely then you're not going to a nice job. You'll be in traffic. So if you're going to promise to go to the United States or go to England for a nice job in a bar or a hotel or a good paying job, and as you reach and you claim immigration and take your cell phone from you and take your passport, run. You've been trafficked.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot especially with our experience. So in Venezuela, especially in the state of Sucre, there was a company who donated. When we were conducting the study, there's a company that donated about 2,700 cell phones. So what we were able to do, what they did, we looked at the whole issue of human trafficking in Venezuela. So we went down there and we interviewed them, and what we found, for example, so we looked at, well, in Venezuela, this state of Sucre is the human trafficking capital. So we gave up the cell phones in Sucre, Estado Falcon, Delta, Amacoro, Bolivia, Arupa, all the cities. And when they put the cell phone on, we could have seen where they're traveling to, what route they took. okay, how they leave, where all the routes were. And from that incident, we're able to now, through geospatially tag the routes. So now we have a very good idea of so we looked at 43 routes coming from Venezuela into the Northern Caribbean.
How much of that passed through Grenada?
Well, Grenada is a very peculiar place because in Grenada there are, well, not necessarily human trafficking, but let's say we look at what you can do. Let's say look at you know, I will use the term human trafficking loosely, meaning drug smuggling, arms smuggling, etc. So human trafficking now. So in Grenada, there are about 11. Sorry, in the Caribbean, there are about 11 known smuggling routes in the region. So 11 known smuggling routes. So let's say from 0 to 11. And what we see, for example, that four of the routes coincide within Grenada. So Grenada lies in the epicenter of a smuggling routes. So from Venezuela to St. Vincent, Venezuela to Tortola, Guyana, Colombia, all of those routes, because we know that St. Vincent has a very well-defined drug smuggling route. Okay, because of the marijuana trade, etc., and a lot of routes from Dominica, the French West Indies. So they try to get the drugs from the southern the Caribbean into either the French West Indies, the Dutch West Indies, etc. And these countries, for example, in the Dutch and French West Indies, British West Indies, their view on drugs is very different to our view on drugs. Their view on, let's say, prostitution is different to how we view it. So, for example, in Suriname, I mean, you can go to any quote unquote brothels. Nobody will check on you. It's every night it's open. You see?
Wow.
But yet this is not done. We cannot do that in Eastern Caribbean. So the Dutch view drugs and sex in a different way to how the English people who are colonized by England view sexual violence.
All right. Tracy, Tracy, are you there? And any questions? Any further questions? More questions that you for Mr. Pierre to enlighten you more about the trafficking. Tricia, your mic is muted. There's a comment online here. Someone said a client of them. I was told a few weeks ago by a client that in Dubai, a lot of sex trade happens there. They pay a lot of money and lots of abuse sometimes. The men want persons to eat their feces and vomit. That is crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as I said, men, from my experience, as I said, I'm not condoning it. We're a researcher. Our field of study, we look at the predatory aspect of human trafficking. So we focus most of our research on the predatory aspect, not necessarily the victims. Yes, there are victims, okay, but people sort of maybe criticize us and say, hey, you're looking after the predators. Why can't you look after the victims? Okay. So what we believe from our experience is that, in my opinion, is that you cannot stop human trafficking by focusing on the victim. Just as how you cannot stop terrorism by focusing on the victims of terrorism, you cannot stop crime or gang violence by focusing on the victims of gang violence. We also believe that you cannot stop human trafficking by focusing on the victims of human trafficking. You must go after the human traffickers. And that's what we say. We focus our data, our intelligence on the human traffickers. From our experience, we know that for every 30 persons that are victims, there are about 2 or 2.5 human traffickers. So there are less human traffickers than there are victims. So
okay.
what you got to do is to focus on the human traffickers, and then we specialize on that. We conduct interviews, surveys with them, find out what they do, why they commit what they do. We do not, as I said, condemn them. Okay, we do not condemn them. And sometimes we have this challenge with law enforcement, because law enforcement want us to give them their names. Okay. but based on confidentiality arrangement, and obviously we cannot do that. People would not speak with us, if they know that, hey, you are like a snitch or something, But so we conduct the studies, and what we realized that I was discussing this with one of the director of public prosecution in one of the countries, and what we have found is that some of the traffickers are also victims. Okay, and this is very key. Some of the traffickers, a guy may come, raid your house, take you, rape you, sell you into trafficking, but he also is a victim because someone paid him to do that. If he does not deliver, what will happen to him? If he does not get 3-4 girls a night, or 2 or 3 girls in a week, what will happen to him?
Wow.
So you see, it's a cycle. It's a defined hierarchy. Okay, so from the top, the people who run the business do not know anyone who is at the bottom, etc.
Tricia, Tricia was going to ask. Tricia?
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was actually just listening.
Okay.
It's just the information is also very real, and I just one thing I had to ask you, if because this subject has actually recently started just surfacing here in Grenada, do you think people who are in this business would actually talk about it, like raise concerns about it, like they're genuinely concerned? Hey, did you hear there are human traffickers here? Let's try and raise people awareness. Do you think this is a chance they would actually take or not?
Okay, well, I mean, I believe I have faith in people. I believe that people would do the right thing. And, we say that Grenada is a Christian country, so we have to do the right thing. However, we must get the support. We must get the support of law enforcement. We must get the legislation in place. We must, in order for us we must be able to count it and measure it. We must have systems in place. And what we know for Grenada, even though the law is there, but it is not enacted, there is no counter-trafficking unit. And as we said, Grenada, the first stage is to establish a counter-trafficking unit similar to what you have in Trinidad, similar to what you have in Antigua, similar to what you have in Grenada, similar to what you have in Guyana. Sorry, not Grenada, similar to have in all the other countries. So Grenada has to have it. Grenada has to go on record to establish a human trafficking, a counter-trafficking unit. And as of the 28th of March 2023, this has not been done. And we're asking the government of Grenada, or anybody tell any of the other decision makers to please establish a counter-trafficking unit. And if they do not know how to do it, just call us. We can set it up for them.
Wow.
Okay, because this has not been done. Almost 10 years now, this has not been done.
Wow.
It's not to say that we're against any government. It's just that the government of Grenada is not important for them. It's not an important issue. And that's why the whole issue of counter-trafficking unit, the whole migrant smuggling, it's not an important issue. And that has to be an important, because it is an important issue for every country. That's why people set up the counter-trafficking unit. But we have not done this as yet in our beloved Spice Isle.
Check your question. Text.
Yeah. Is there a petition that we could sign and plead to the government, like plead the petition and get so many people to sign it and send it in to them?
I think that could be a very, very great idea.
Yeah.
And I would be the first signature, because we have been advocating for this for a long time. I mean, as a human trafficking consultant, I mean, people from all over the region would refer to us, will reach out to us. People from the U.S. State Department will reach out to us, the government of Canada, the British High Commissioner, the Dutch Embassy, the French Embassy, the Spanish, all the regions in the Caribbean. They will reach out to us for assistance.
I must say this. I'm not just going to take.
Reach out to us.
I'm not going to just take a tap on my back for this one, because I remember the first time you came on the show, we was doing a show on human trafficking, right? And you was listening to the radio and you called in and you asked if you could come on to talk about human trafficking and sex trafficking in the Caribbean, because you went to the powers that be in Grenada and the media houses, and they did not want to listen to you because this wasn't happening in Grenada at all, right? They didn't want to hear you. And I said, come on next Friday on the show, and you came on and you give us a whole list of things that happening in the Caribbean, from Venezuela up to the upper chain of islands up there. And after that, you got calls from Harvard, you got calls from other places. And we did not know if people who was listening to us at the time, Harvard University was listening to us, and those other universities that now, and the governments that now calling you and asking you for stuff because they heard of your story on Gem FM, because it's spread around the world. So how have that changed your work after this publicity? What are some of the I mean, I'm here mentioning some of the calls you've been getting, like the Caribbean islands, and now they know who you are. How does that feel, being a Grenadian person doing such an important job when it comes to dealing with human trafficking and sex trafficking in the Caribbean? And you come from a humble place and a humble Gem FM.
Okay, well, that yeah, it's a little flattering, and but we have to look at the crime itself. The crime itself, it's a global crime, and you need to have resources for it, and you need to take this thing seriously, because it is violence against people, violence against the minors, people who are because of their economic conditions, they are subject to violence. They become vulnerable, and that is why it is so important to set up these systems in your country.
Right. I think I remember you made a point where women groom other young women who get involved in sex trafficking. How does that go about? When a young girl get trafficked, they take another woman and like she have sex with the Dan or the John or whoever, and then that woman will come in and groom her in and tell her it's okay. How women could watch another? I mean, groom another woman to be that vulnerable to another man. How does that happen?
Well, it is. Oh, sorry.
Just, before you answer that question, it's angering me. I'm to hear you guys talk, and I'm getting real pain on the inside. If you're not part of the task force, right? Could somebody else call people in high places and ask questions and make a petition?
Yes, you can.
I think you can do that. Okay.
Yes.
We can do that, and it is time, as I said that.
Okay. If I need a letter to draft up,
right?
How can I get it?
Well, you just call the Ministry of National Security in Grenada. I mean, I guess it's headed by the Prime Minister and or the immigration, and tell them, as I said, I hope I'm going on record, okay, because I have been advocating for this. we need to have a counter-trafficking unit in Grenada. We just have to have it. All the Caribbean islands, we need to take this thing seriously. And because we do not take the issue of migrant smuggling seriously in the country, we do not take the issue of human trafficking seriously in the country. Therefore, there is no counter-trafficking unit. And we are asking the government, as I said, I hope I'm going on record, we're asking the government to please institute a counter-trafficking unit in Grenada, similar to those that is set up in Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua, Jamaica, Guyana, Suriname, most of the other Caribbean islands. They all have a counter-trafficking unit. And if they do not know how to set it up, I think they know. But if they do not know,
they don't know.
Come and
They have just set up. The previous government has set up the FIU, the Financial Crime Unit, right?
yes,
They have that. So
financial crime unit.
Yeah, but that's fine. Yeah, but that's financial. Because, okay, if a person, and I want to go so far off, because if it's not affecting your own house, you would ignore it.
Yes.
Until it gets into your house, you'll begin to feel it. I am saying before it get there, before it get worse, because we're talking about our babies, our school children on buses. Right in the terminal, there's a lot of police officers there. So if there is there, at least if you train them, if you tell them something, they could look out for a lot of things.
Right.
White people coming into Grenada and abuse our children, that must stop.
Right. You see, and
I
that's
am
it.
going
So
to make some phone calls.
right. And that is why the counter-trafficking unit is so important. It will sensitize the population for the issue of human trafficking. It will sensitize them. Okay, in Grenada, you go into the airport, there's no idea, there's no brochure of human trafficking. You go through in the street, there's absolutely nothing, as though it does not exist. And
all right.
you know that in Grenada, it exists.
Okay, I think Tracy, I want to say something there.
Painful, man. That's
No, I was just gonna add, and the fact that we don't have this unit, it actually makes us much more vulnerable, because I'm sure these people who are conducting this business, they have done their research, and you have to ask yourself something this horrible. Why isn't it we are not more vocal about it? Why isn't something being put in place? It kind of makes you wonder, to be quite honest.
I mean, it's over 6 years now. Over 4 years now. 4 years, almost 4 years now. Since you've been here, was before COVID. Yeah.
Yes.
So almost 3 to 4 years now. You've been lobbying for these things to happen in Grenada.
We have been lobbying for it.
Yeah.
For a long time. We have reached out, but it's, as I said, it's not important, and it has to be important to the powers that be. It is something that it is priority. We have to look at. We have to set up a counter-trafficking unit. We have to set up our migration policies. We have to sign, all the relevant United Nations protocols, because when we as Grenadians go out in the diaspora, we go to the United States. Some of us come in illegally, come in as refugees, coming from all other parts, and we are treated very, very respectfully, and we should expect that from other people who come into our country who have experienced challenges. And that's why the whole issue of the Haitians is so important, that in 2023, we have been sending back Haitians. And that's why it made an international outcry. That's why, the whole world condemned Grenada on that.
Yeah.
We have the School of Medicine. I just came out from Grenada, and I see young people walking alone in Grenada. It is so safe. And then to hear this sick, twisted thing is like, no.
You see, one of the things that happens, like Dr. Perry is saying, the subtleness of the thing. People that is trusted people that are doing it. You know, people that you trust. You might even, and then we have to look out to see who is walking with who. Because like I said, somebody could be walking with somebody nicely, and this person is a traffic individual. You know, it could be a trafficker with somebody walking. It could be the pastor. It could be the police officer. It could be a politician. It could be a doctor. It could be, you know, a businessman. You know, it could be the same bus driver you talked about earlier on. You know, the mother who's selling her daughter. This is trafficking as well. Right. So all of those things happening.
It's safe though. It's so safe to walk in Grenada. It's so safe. And then to have these morons and then these kind of men come into our country and invade our privacy, man, the prime minister must hear.
Yes, and I think that maybe people can reach out to the powers that be. One consolation is that Grenada is a safe place. Another consolation is that we have a super duper police force. We have, you know, a strong, you know, police force on the ball. I mean, you know, high incidence of good intelligence, and so that is what maybe some of the only one of the best consolation. We have a good DPP. You know, we win a lot of our cases. So we have to sort of still commend Grenada and the police force.
The airport is so perfect.
Yeah, but Dr. Pierre.
How they getting through? No.
But yeah, but hold on, Dr. Pierre, you made mention earlier on, and the question is sex tourism thing, right? So I'm in Canada here. I want to go to Grenada. I'm looking for the best stuff, and somebody give me a brochure and tell you, okay, go stay in that such X hotel, and we're looking for an 11-year-old girl, you know, with no pubic hair, whatever, and that is on the menu as well as part of the deal, right? Because I think it was a couple of years ago, someone went into a hotel with a 11-year-old, right, and with a woman. And she dropped the child there and she walked out, and the child was there with another man, came from Europe or something like that, to be there with that 11-year-old. You know? And so those things do happen.
Yes, happen.
And if the police is not trained to identify and to do that, they will never identify it because the focus is not there.
That is why, Grenada, you need a counter-trafficking unit. This is what you just explained there. That is why you need to sensitize every country in the world. Every normal country in the world have a counter-trafficking unit. Most countries in the Caribbean have a counter-trafficking unit. And that's why we were pleading to the government. We're pleading to the Ministry of National Security. We're pleading to the Prime Minister or everyone who's in charge of that. Please set up a counter-trafficking unit in Grenada.
Yeah. So all of these have to be. So again, the whole idea of domestic violence in the marriage and all the sex trafficking, all of these things compiled together. You know, I know the domestic violence is something that is looked at and stuff like that, but the sex trafficking, and I mean, we hear stories in calypsos. And that text, that's why I listen to calypsos, no text. You know, you hear those calypsos in the Caribbean and Grenada in particular, where incest is another big problem. I think Black Wizard, one of his songs, say incest is something we still have to address. It's happening.
Yeah.
You know,
and you know, we have the highest rate of incest in the Eastern Caribbean. So Grenada has the highest rate of incest.
Whoa.
So we have. I mean, I don't want to call the community, you know, 3 communities. Okay, it is something that we study a lot. The highest case of incest.
I know.
Actually, if you look at, listen, if you, as I said, you know, some people, I will. Sometimes I say things and you know people get angry, okay, and say that I'm exaggerating. But I tell people, so don't take my word for it. Look on the court system in the cases and see how many sexual violence cases there are. In Grenada, because as I said, you know, we could only, the statistics is the best representation of people. Don't take my word from it. Look for the statistics and look at how many cases.
Wow.
Sexual violence is a huge problem in the Caribbean region. And that is why we need a counter-trafficking unit. Not only it deals with things about human trafficking, sexual violence, incest, etc. But it will have teeth. It will have advertisement. They will have law enforcement. We will be able to prosecute people if they have belief that these people could commit these crimes. Yes, it is. It is. In fact, one of the you mentioned about a tourist, about a tourist. One about the consultant who was with us on the human trafficking study. He said that when he went to a hotel, and in that hotel there were human trafficking activities, and at 9 o'clock in the night, the hotel management told him to get out of the hotel because he was trying to investigate that. So you remember that?
So they know it happened in the hotel.
Beg your pardon?
So then they know it's happening in the hotel too.
Yeah, of course, yes. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, people just do not say it. I'm not pointing fingers. In A hotel or B hotel, but people can read between the lines.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And that is why we need knowledge, and that's why the counter-trafficking unit in Grenada is so important.
Wow.
So it may be, since that all good things starts with Gem FM. So
FM, yes.
We could have a petition, 7,000 signatures to ask the government to set up a counter-trafficking unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This is mind-boggling.
I'm to put a letter together, and I don't mind going around.
Yes. We get 7,000 signatures.
Thank you.
And ask them to get, because people just you don't believe this. People believe that our country, you put it. I mean, like initially we heard people saying that you put in a bad name on the country.
No,
okay, you put in a bad name. Why everything bad about Grenada or the Caribbean you want to broadcast? You put in a bad name on the country.
No, it's too safe, because I'm petrified of the dark, and I went to Grenada and I was walking in the dark. So I'm telling you, if I can do it because I know it is safe,
yes,
and then to come here now and find out that somebody could have just stayed in the bush and wait for me.
Well, it's not happening in the bush. It's not nobody join the bush and grab you. It is actually a systematic thing where people No, Dex, you walk in the street and it may not happen to you. It's people who you're familiar with in the police, the doctors, the bus drivers. These are the people.
Right on the road there. Police is living there. They could have set up some white man.
Yeah. You never know. There are people making arrangements.
Yeah. You see, and that's why the whole issue of data is so important. And so what we look at the data, we look at what is taking place. We know that, for example, in the region, the governments are they're very unwilling to divulge information, okay, on these issues. So we try to get these data from in all ways possible, and sometimes so because they are data. Like, for example, when we were doing the PAHO studies, the issues of health and health situation in certain countries, persons were, like in some persons in the ministries, they were very reluctant, and they were afraid to give data, because if they know that we collect their data, the job will be compromised, because some of them. So, for example, in certain countries that we worked in, the only person who had to collect data. All the data had to go through one person, and if that person, and because data is political in the Caribbean region, so people we do not know the truth, and that is why in this case with the human trafficking, it's important that we set up a counter trafficking unit. That's the first start, and in that you will have 3, 4, 5 officers assigned to that unit, and investigate it. You can go to the because they will have the knowledge. We can train them.
We're
and
not
it's all
doing
done on
anything wrong.
databases.
We are looking out for our children. We are looking out for our grandchildren. We are looking about the vulnerable ones. And those are the people that people is taking advantage of. So we are just putting up parameters and to say, this is our love Grenada, and nobody has the right to come in to interfere with our children. That's what it is. That's just what it
Yes,
is.
I mean, you.
Not even our children. I mean, another thing that happens too, Ted, I think one of the things that I saw in another report that there might be a child in St. Vincent, right? Might be trafficked to Grenada to somebody coming from Europe to meet a child in Grenada.
Yes, and remember that our borders are very, very porous.
Yes.
People come into our borders. Grenada, you know that Grenada is in the middle of a human trafficking, like a human trafficking route. People come in, people intercept our borders, left, right, and center, cocaine, drugs, all type petrol, all type of things. And I said, we have to, despite all what we are saying on one side, but on the other side, we have to thank and give praise to our law enforcement, the commissioner of police, the hierarchy, because they are doing a fabulous job, and we need more like the Grenadian police. So we need more. But however, we still have to do the right thing.
Yeah, most definitely.
Let's work for our country. Let's work for our country.
The time is now 10:56. Hour beyond the time here. I don't know if Tracy have anything, Chrisia. I really wanted to do that because I know as a mother, I know Tex is a mother too, but being an important figure now, so I'll call it a power mother, because she representing Grenada, and probably you never know what question they might ask her as it relates to human trafficking. If there might be a question like that, how do you respond as a mother? So I'm happy that you're here tonight, Tracy, that you're able to get a lot of information, so you could be more prepared to talk about those stuff and them in the circles that you get involved in, and ask mothers how much in their country do they know about sex trafficking and human trafficking in their respective communities. And I would like for you, Dr. Pierre, to have even a more in-depth conversation, because you could probably get some information from him and more stats from him, so you could use that in your conversation if you decide to be an advocate for human trafficking. Most likely they might ask you, I mean, a lot of people who do those pageants, they become an advocate for something. Probably that might be something that you may want to take up, Tracy, and advocate for on behalf of those vulnerable children. Now we know how vulnerable the situation is, and people come in when they come in with children, how to look for them. Task force, it could be a women's group, a women's organization, a concerned citizen organization could set up a task force by themselves to look into those things and them. As for a spot in the airport where you could trace and look at those people and them and see and stuff like that, because people come from all over the place and come to Grenada. They go to St. Vincent, they go to Trinidad, and commit those crimes. And they someone goes unnoticed, someone slip through the cracks. And very much, a lot of people, I know it was alleged that one from the Middle East, children are trafficked to England from the Middle East. So alleged that happens. I remember a couple of years ago, a friend of mine got a 10-year-old child to take care of. He came to the airport, he had no passport. The person who came with on the plane took his passport and he just go to immigration. But in the back of his jacket, in the zipper, in the back of his jacket, had the phone number and address where he should go after a certain age.
Yeah. And we had actually, that's a very good point. We had incident where we interviewed persons because a lot of the immigrations, they have a very good relationship with us sometimes. And what they especially one government in particular, what they do when they arrest people for drugs, they normally would call us and they give us an opportunity to speak to that person, because we see that some persons who for example have who are hired, arrested for drugs. Yes, they may be a drug, but they may also be a mule. either a dead cow. So there may be a dead cow. So yes, they have their drugs on them, but they may be trafficked or forced into putting the drugs on them. So what they have allowed us to do, for example, is to talk to that person, and what we were able to do is to get a lot of information, because I am not we know what questions to ask, we know how to interview them. We are not police officers, and sometimes we said, hey, it's not it may not be your problem, you may not be responsible. And we know we give them the whole history of human trafficking, and sometimes they break down and cry and they say, well, so I did this because this guy, took my daughter and say that if I don't do this, they will rape my daughter, they did my children, and I had to do it. And this, so there's a story behind it. But yet, a normal police officer would, when someone has, let's say, 10 pounds of cocaine on them, traveling from, let's say, from X country to Y country, and through immigration, the police would arrest them. So the police would arrest them and they have the 10 pounds of cocaine on them. And when they interview them now, they'll take them and put them away, charge them for crime. So that person loses everything. But based on our investigation, and that's why research is so important, based on our investigation, we found out that a lot of the persons who are trafficked, who are arrested for, a lot of people who traffic drugs, some of them are victims. So they are also victims of human trafficking. So sometimes what we ask them in the law enforcement is to give us the first option to speak to them, because we understand the history. Our specialization, we specialize on the predatory aspect of human trafficking. We know what they do. So when we interview some of these people, what we found out that yes, indeed, they have 10 pounds of cocaine on them, but we have to understand the psychology behind it. Why are they traveling with this 10 pounds of cocaine or 10 kilo of cocaine? It's because maybe some guy held the children, or came in, raped two of the other children and tortured them and said, hey, if you do not travel to this country with it, we will kill your children. We will and the mothers, in terms of fear, end up doing it. And we have a situation where this woman confessed and said, yes, she had it. But however, this happened to her, that happened to her. And the police in the country were able to find the perpetrators, because she then disclosed who the perpetrators were, found out where the children were, and end up saving everybody.
Wow. Isn't that something? Before we close, I don't want Tracy to come back in here, but I want to ask you a question. Is there any training that your company does for community groups to help them to identify, to talk to persons that, for example, somebody comes to Grenada cocaine, for example, but they are a victim of trafficking, and is there any specialized training that your organization have for persons to do that, to help go to talk to those victims?
Well, there are a lot of training. We also have to have specific training. We have a program where we look at the 9 disruptive areas of a human trafficker, how to disrupt a human trafficker. And there are 9 steps, and we teach that step to a lot of law enforcement people. Because now everything is done online, and because our firm, we have one of the largest databases of persons in the Caribbean region, so we could able to access almost data at will, and there are about 16 websites that are involved in the selling of human trafficking, because human trafficking is a people's business. You must interact with people. So what we do is that we teach them how to intercept, all this, and that's what we do. So the training process, we do that in collaboration with another organization, and we teach law enforcement officers how to intelligence, cyber warfare, cyber crime, how to kind of look at it. And in countries as Grenada, it's very small, it's very easy to have to get access to the information. And if you suspect someone, most likely your suspicions are correct.
Right. Okay. So what I'll do, I think I'll need you and Miss Tracy to exchange numbers so you can, get more information, and you and I could probably find out how probably she could help with the situation, help to alleviate some of the stresses and some of the symptoms, do some of the symptoms and the causes, and to counsel people to talk and create more awareness. And somebody now who represent Grenada, as Miss Grenada, be someone of influence now that could talk to young ladies, talk to parents, have a parents conversation about trafficking, and do a group. They could create awareness for those things. So Tracy, Grant Lewis, any closing, any final questions, any thoughts you may have to share as Miss Grenada here tonight, and I'm so proud to have you here. It's always a pleasure having you here, to talk and to know who you are. We want to do all the best for you to win this and to bring the crown back home. We really want you to go. We really want you to have this crown on your head. We know you have it already. We just have to push on you when you get there. You know what I mean? So we want you to do that. All right. So talk to us in the closing remarks. Yeah.
Well, quite an earful. If you realize, I was very quiet because as I said, it's just also unreal in my head still. But mention a couple of things. One of which I think I heard you said that that somehow that this whole thing was already brought. Well, it was brought to I would assume the former government.
Yeah.
And well, I guess they didn't bite. Let's hope that with this new administration, we don't have to go down the road where we probably need the petition. But if we can sit down and have a conversation and bring the facts to the table, that they will give us a listening ear. Of course, there's always a petition, that we can do. Also, I'm just listening to the overall tone of this conversation. And what I'm seeing is the reason it can be a very lucrative industry in any given island, it would be a lot too based on the emotional damage, the psychological damage, the economy as well. I'm seeing that even here in Grenada, there's a lot of vulnerable people for different reasons. And so, yes, while we might be creating the awareness, I'm definitely not saying a no to this. We also have to go back to what makes our people vulnerable. What really make the mothers sell out their children, or the young women get into it. So we actually have a bigger fight on our hand than we realize. I mean, this is just like, you're just kind of opening up a can of worms right there. But all the same, I do believe, as Tech said, Grenada we have this, we're known for our safety. And it's something we'd like to preserve very much. Actually, today I was saying that we would like to preserve the fact that our kids can walk the street. A little 50, 60, 70-year-old person could walk the street as well. And our young, vigilant young people can walk the street and not live in this constant fear. Yes, the world is changing rapidly. I'm not saying no to that, but I do believe everybody right across the board, including the present administration, would agree that we want to keep our country safe. We want to keep our children safe. And I think more than anything else, that if not anything else, that should be the reason that, let's try and hit this thing out of the park before it gets here. And if we can keep here safe, then we can concentrate on probably helping, a sister island, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pierre. I definitely will be calling you because I do have a few friends within the recent months. For some reason, this has been the topic of discussion. And I know, shout out there to you, Kimmy Jenkins. She's someone who's always been, championing this cause. And I know she's probably smiling from ear to ear tonight because she feels so passionate about this. So thank you so much, Mr. Pierre, for the information. It was a lot, but I assure you I was listening. And I quite agree with you, Tex. We want to keep Grenada safe. And thank you, John, for having me on this program.
Oh, welcome. You're welcome. Most welcome. Closing remarks from Tex Manwaring. In closing, Miss Grenada now. She's Tricia, I know somebody said, you guys, young devil always picking on tech because she now become a new Grenadian. She gets a new passport. She gets a new rebirth to Grenada. She know where Guelph is now and she know where everything is now in Grenada. So now she give a whole history of Grenada now. So Tech, closing remarks.
I'm gonna have to use my sash next time.
You have a sash? Next time I go to Grenada, I'm going for Tricia. So can I go to Grenada next time and do not go for Tricia? Okay? So then you don't you get a green passport. Once you talk with Tricia, you get a green passport. Go ahead.
I'm very passionate about people that is hurting. And when I hear it's involved children, it makes my stomach grow because I'm very, very, very to hear a woman cry or a man cry because somebody took advantage of them, and knowing that there are people that could protect them, it gripes my stomach. And I'm fearless. I'm becoming, if I want to approach somebody, I have no fear. And when I talk about if we can get the petition, I mean, if we can get it like today, I will go to the Board of Tourism, start there, because they're not even advertising the country like they should. So I will go there. Then I'll go to the commission office here on Young Street, I mean University Street. And then I will make some calls. Tomorrow, please the Lord, I'm telling you, I would make some calls and speak to some people in Grenada that's sitting there and ask them why are they there or why they're holding that seat if they're not going to do anything about it. Because our airport is so safe. Our streets are so safe. After 9 in the night, you have young people walking back and forth from the university onto Point Celine in those dark areas. And they're just enjoying themselves. Them alone, both of them together. And it is so safe by the shops and things in Grandlands. People just hang out. And for somebody to come, some white person to come from where he come from and disturbing my children and my grandchildren, that is not going to happen. That's going to stop. Because our police now is going to know that they just have to just put an extra eye. Or just send me back home so I could stand on the airport.
Go identify them. Yes. Well, Dr. Pierre, it's always a pleasure to have you here all the time. I know you have something coming up again. We will release it here again on Gem FM. I know we always do the first thing, every study you have done, or data collection you have done, you come right here. And Gem FM is the first station in the world to release your information. So again, I know you have something coming up, and whenever you're ready, you just let us know. We have you here Friday night or Saturday night to release those reports. And we have the labor market survey happening in Montreal. So as soon as you're finished with that, I know you'll be right back here with that and go release that. But I want to thank you for your time that you took to come on here tonight again at a very short notice too. No, I told you last month, Tuesday, I told you Monday, something like that, and it was ready for tonight. So last week, Thursday, something like that. Thursday, yeah. Because after the show, Wednesday, that was Wednesday, yeah. Last Wednesday, I told you about it and it was ready to come on here tonight. And I appreciate the time that you take to come on Gem FM to talk to us and to inform our people, the world, of what is going on in this whole arena of sex and human trafficking, domestic violence, and so on. So I want to say on behalf of the entire Gem FM family, thank you very much. And we're looking forward to have you back here in a very short space of time, again, to do your release of the data collection survey. Your closing remarks, sir.
Oh, thank you very much, John, and the Gem FM family. I want to thank you very much for having me on the show. As I said, John has been like my father, in the sense that he was the one who kind of gave us exposure when we had the challenges with the human trafficking report. We wanted to get it out we went around many places and no one heard us. We spoke to John and he immediately gave us an interview, and here we are now. So John, very thankful for that. As I said, we cannot do everything, but we must rely on the data. We must let the data and research and evidence speak for us. And that is why when we do, the people know more than the politicians. And that's why surveys and research is so important. And that's why in other countries, governments will rely on research to make decisions. However, in our countries, we don't do things like that. We believe that the government know more about the people. So we want to tell you that as a research firm, we are willing and always willing to assist. We've just completed our report, which is called our Black Rapid Labor Market Needs Assessment. So it's the first labor market needs assessments on Black people that has been ever conducted in Canada's history. So it's a very, very important report. I think that we want every Black person or every person to get a copy. It is on our website. If you go onto our website is www.d as in DPB Global. So that's D as in done, P as in Pierre, B as in Bravo, dpbglobal.com, and you go on the right side and you ask order report. You will get that there. It is the first comprehensive report on the Black labor market needs assessment in Canada. In Canada, we have been existing since hundreds of years, but a labor market research has never been conducted on Black people. So this is the first one we did for Ontario. This is the first comprehensive one. We were able to interview 1,583 firms. So it is the largest data set of firms ever conducted. We have a margin of error of 1.41. So it's a very exact survey. We got the survey. We gave it to StatScan to give them recommendation. They said it was very good. And so we're looking for Black people, especially persons from any country, to read the copy, order the copy, download the copy. Is very important, because if we don't have data, we do not know where we would be. Okay, and so it provides essential what is taking place in Canada. We as Black people, we are at a we are with a lot of challenges. We are at high risk we're underrepresented. Okay, discrimination against us. We have certain skills we do, because we do not do studies and research. We do not know where to place our children. And I'm saying that if you have a child, if you have grandchildren, you should get a copy of their report. You can go to our website at www.dpbglobal.com, and on the top right hand side you will see order report. Just click on that and order the report, and you read it, and it will change your life. I guarantee it will change your life, and you will know what to do from there. So once again, I want to thank you very much.
Yes.
Miss Lewis, everyone can give me a call. My phone number is 647-966-8783. So 647-966-4783, sorry. 647-966-4783. And my email is C as my name, C Justine with an E. So C Justine, Pierre, as in my last name, Pierre @gmail.com. So it's cjustinpierre@gmail.com. Ask me any questions. As I said, we're all Grenadians. We all people from the Caribbean. We're willing to help. And we are in a fortunate situation where now we can now assist by providing research. As you mentioned, we are now in Quebec conducting the Black Quebecers pension survey. It's the first survey that's been conducted. It has been sponsored by our organization called FACE, the Federation of African Canadian Economics, and a group by the name of Group Transat. They are Quebec based, and they are conducting this. We're conducting the survey on our behalf. So because we need to know about our finance, our future, and what we see in Canada, that Black people, we have the lowest investment to population ratio, meaning that we as a population, we do not invest, we do not buy stocks, we do not buy bonds, we do not get involved in the stock market. And this is, as a result, we do not take advantage of the opportunities that are bestowed upon persons to understand the importance of saving for pension and retirement in Quebec, and then hopefully we'll extend it to the other parishes. And I want to thank you very much for having me and giving me this platform so that I can discuss our plans, and give us a call. We're there to help. If you have any projects, any things that you want to know, any concerns, give us a call. We'll be more than willing to assist.
Yep. All right. So I just want to chip on to put on your shoulder there again. Just remind Grenadians that the first accurate prediction of the Grenada election was released here days before the election was won in Grenada by the NDC. And the margin of error, how much seats the NDC going to win, how much seats the NFP going to win was declared here before the election was finished. And just the way Dr. Pierre outline the election to be turned out in Grenada, exactly that how it turned out. It was so, I don't know if Tracy had a copy of it, but that's another thing that we had. Everything, just the seats and the amount of who gonna win and where gonna win was said right here on Gem FM. The 3 days before the election, boom, and it was exactly how he said it. And so Pierre does an excellent job.
Yeah, I just want to say just a small piece of that, and that has, as I said, nothing to do with me, okay? It has to do with something called artificial intelligence and machine learning. So what we're able to do is, as I said, we have the 2,499 pages of the voters, or the registered voters in Grenada. We downloaded into a database. We have all the everybody who lives in Grenada, anybody who's on the white pages, yellow pages. So we have all of that in our database. And what we were able to do scientifically was to divide the country into seven parishes, divide the country into 15 constituencies. But most important, we were able to divide the country into 96 polling divisions. And we were able to monitor those divisions. We developed something called a cell phone to polling district ratio and a cell phone to household ratio. So we're able to just look and see the traffic of when there's an NMP video, how many persons like it, how many persons share it, how many persons discuss all of that data, these granular data we're able to access from way open space. And we also did an interview, our polling. We went down, we did 17 of a focus group, and we believe that people want to change in Grenada, and our prediction came out exactly. Okay, and we said that it's just a pity that the election occurred on June the 23rd. If it if it was slated for July the 23rd, it would be a totally different story. So,
yes, there'll be more seats won for the NDC. Yes,
it's what it is.
Yeah, more seats. Just give them one more week, probably. Yeah. There'll be a clean sweep by NDC. Yeah. So again, thank you guys so much for being here tonight, all of you. I can't say enough, but I just love being here, do what I do with you guys every time I come on this radio station. I always feel empowered, and just knowing the people that we talk to, we do not we don't look for hype. We just want to give facts and figures, do the right thing, give right information, have the right set of people to share the right information out there. We just want to make sure the world be educated, and so they can make the right decisions by the right information they get. And we all about educating to liberate. So the more accurate information, the more we have people like Dr. Pierre come down here and share information is better for the nation. So everybody can learn from it. So Gem FM is really a learning institution by itself.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we should change it to the University of Gem FM. Okay.
Yes, Gem FM.
You come to Gem FM, you come to university, you come to
school. Yes.
And all those persons who are in Quebec, who's Miss Quebec, all say hi to you. If you have not received a copy of the email of the survey, please give me a call or email me, and I'll send a copy for you.
Okay.
But we are looking at we want every Black person to answer the survey in Quebec. So the survey is right now. It's on, and in a few days we will be having a press release from FACE. So please get down and just answer the questions, answer the survey.
Okay. Very good. Well, I hope to have you back here next Friday night or next Saturday night.
Yes, obviously. We have to discuss the labor market needs assessment.
Yes.
So we could,
all right.
give you a copy.
Okay.
And the listening audience, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Tracy, tell Mr. Mexi, MDM, Mexi the Messenger, good night for us here at Gem FM. And Tex will be more delighted to smile from ear to ear tomorrow to have him here. I know she'll be so excited to have him here. Tell him to bring two guys with him. Bring some guys with him. Tex want to talk to the guys tomorrow. So tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Tex? 8 o'clock is the show? 8 o'clock. Yeah. Look, men, hot to hot. Men hot twice more than women. Right? With women of integrity. So that will be happening here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. right here on Gem FM. So again, thank you guys so much. And I want to say thank you to all of you listening around the world again. God bless you. Have a good night. Chex, you want to close off in prayer as we go?
And so, Father, as we come to the end of this program, dear God, I pray, Lord, that everything that we say here and that could get done, dear Father, that you cover it, dear God, cover our prayers, cover our requests, dear Father, that the enemy would not take it and make havoc from it, dear Father. I hope, Lord, the Grenadians that are listening, don't take it to mean anything else, but see it as to protect our own country. It is safe as is. Let us continue having a safe country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, good night again to all. Let's go to my song. My closing song, God Gave You Me. Yes. Where's my song text? God gave you me. I'll find it. Here it is.
I've been working hard, I've made a mess of me. The person that I've been lately ain't who I wanna be. But you stay here right beside me, watch as the storm goes through, and I need you. 'Cause God gave you for the ups and downs. God gave you for the days of doubt. So when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you. Gave me you. There's more here than what we're seeing. Defying conspiracy. It's you, an angel lovely, could somehow fall for me. You'll always be love, scream harder. I'll be the flattered fool. I need you. Yeah. God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. For when I think I lost my way, there are words here left to say it's true. God gave me you. On my own, I'm only half of what I could be. I can't do without you. We'll stand together. Pray we never knew. God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. Oh, God gave me you for the ups and downs. God gave me you for the days of doubt. So when I think I lost my way, there are no words here left to say it's true. God gave me you. Gave me you. Jesus, take it from my hands, 'cause I can't do it.
All right, folks. Again, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for listening tonight. And join Tex tomorrow night and tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Tex will be back. And then tomorrow night at 8 p.m., Tex will be back with Heart to Heart tomorrow morning, intimacy and worship. And again, Friday night, most likely Dr. Pierre will be back with needs assessment survey. And Saturday morning, we're back here, Caribbean Connections, Saturday afternoon from 3 o'clock with Message to the Grassroots from Raphael Paul order in St. Mark's, Sunset in St. Mark's. And Saturday night, again, we have another camera. We'll be doing some other stuff. I'll share the flyer by tomorrow afternoon. We'll see the flyer for Saturday's shows. All right. So God bless you and make you a blessing. May God bless you and keep you while you're absent one from another. God bless. See you tomorrow.
This one is not you. This one is not you.
Yes, again, a pleasant good night to all of you. Sorry about that. Thank you. Blessings from now until. May God watch between you and I while we're absent one from another.
You know, cause you know one else. What you want to do, what you want to do, what you want to politics and said that's no mistake. Showing that you want to do, how much can we do? Sometimes we are silent, I'm not going to say it's real. Just in the shot, you will not mistake like this one. It's from you. We I see others that can stop this, others that can stop this. Brothers fighting sisters, my brother to the land. How much more we got to see? Very soon the time will come when all wickedness must go down and righteousness must come around. Making babies, make them as the respect for the elders. And the bring you make the belly of my gangster. And the shot it will fire. Someone will teach them to pray. This one. This one. Children making favors. Step with the elders. Someone pray.
Someone pray.
In this life that we live in, oh yeah, baby, say you got to have it. If I gave you this fire, would you take it from my hands? If I told you my secrets, would you tell them I'm your man? Now that you know my secrets, who's against me if you can? It's only you in my head. Would you stand beside this man? If you decide to tell me yes, yes I know that you know what I do is. Decide to tell me yes, yes I know that you know what I do is. If I give you protection, would you sleep inside my door? It's only me and you. We could never be alone. If anything you require, I'll assist it on my own. Some of my words, when I ask you, if you decide to tell me yes, yes I know that you know what I is. If you decide to tell me yes, yes I know that you know what I is. Lord, I ask in my prayer, you need. Come and give me your love, girl. I never felt this so free. I'm never leaving, I'm staying. I just thought I'd let you know. So come and give me your love, 'cause I'll never let you go. If you decide to tell me yes, yes I know, yes I know, you know I got the rest. If you decide to tell me yes, yes I know that you know I got the rest. If you decide to tell me yes, yes I know, yes I know, you know I got the rest. If you If you decide to take me, yes, I know that you know give you thanks and praise for all the years, months, weeks, and days you have guided us and showed us your mercy, your love. We give you praise. Father, we give you thanks for rising up this morning. Strength and light from me to go. It's not for me, journey is long. But we got to take back and just be done this. So if you leave it right, and you lost this life, then justice stands for the life. Where's everything's alright? Let God carry your side, as your shield has right. Everything's alright, so never over. Celebrating life, celebrating life, living. If that's happening, no matter what my new brother, no matter what my new sister, living. If that's happening, Father, we give it up for all that you have done. You tell patterns and that we had fun. So many mistakes we made, but we have learned. No patterns to give you praises from this song. So if you give it right, and you have this right, then you have some life, cause everything's alright. Let God carry your side, as the shield at night, and everything's alright. So let me love it. Celebrating life, celebrating life, living. If that's living, no matter what my new brother, no matter what my new sister, living. If that's living, Father, we give you thanks for every blessing we bear. Sometimes it was rough, but it made us strong. But by the sin we give you up over us. So now we give you praises as life goes on. I know I keep it right, as I love this life, as I give thanks for life, and everything. I'm by my side, as the shield of life, and everything's alright. So never say, celebrating life, celebrating life, living. If that's living, no matter what my new brother, no matter what my new sister, living. If that's living. People, I wake up my people, open your heart, living this life so carelessly, leave it blind. Really holding it with me, there's one that's not far. Till the open, I wake up, I wake up. I wake up, I wake up. Wake up, I wake up, I wake up. I wake up, I wake up. I'm not living on this mentally. Things from my hands are just free. Well, let's be free. Let everyone to control our life, our destiny. Do our best to get it, to see. So wake up, I wake up. Wake up, and wake up, now wake up, now wake up. Wake up, now wake up, now wake up, my people. Wake up, now wake up, now wake up. So let us be hidden from the wise and the shall be revealed unto the time to stop waiting. What to see? Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, my people. Wake up and wake up, now wake up, now wake up, my people. Picture of tomorrow is what they see. Wake up, now wake up, now wake up, my people. Oh yeah. Wake up, now wake up, now wake up, my people. Wake up, my people. Open your heart. Living this life so carelessly. Stop leaving time. 2020 is missing. One does not stop. Wake up, wake up.